questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. All right, so today is Zone 1. Okay, so the zone meetings are your opportunity to play Stump the Rabbi. No. The zone meeting is the opportunity for me to see if I can answer some of your questions, because after all, that's part of being a part of the body, is that we all have a lot of questions. And, you know, in my experience, ministries don't make enough of an effort to answer questions. I don't know if it's because they don't have the answers or not, or they're afraid of the questions, but, you know, we try to do this on a regular basis. Look, we do it after every teaching, but this is more of an open format where you can ask a question pretty much about anything, okay? For those watching, these are not pre-screened. We don't have anybody going, you know, and screening these questions before they come up, so I have no idea what's going to be asked. But, you know, I'm just prayerfully allowing the Ruach to lead and give answers to what's asked. Everybody should be paying attention, though, because somebody may ask something that you've had a question about but just didn't want to come up and ask it, okay? So I had somebody today in Zone 2 say that the last couple of meetings, you know, it might have been just the Zone 3 before that, got a bunch of their questions answered, okay? So it happens quite a bit. All right, we're going to begin by taking people here in the building. We may go to the live stream only for Beth Shalomers that may be at home or not able to be here today, but it is for the local Beth Shalom group today. If you're in Zone 1 that don't live here, we will get you next month. It's an every other month type of deal. Okay, we'll begin with Miss Shira.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom. And if you guys listen to the scriptures online, you'll recognize the voice.
Which is getting deeper by the minute.
There you go. I'll try to go down with you.
Rabbi Steve, I just thank you for opening the mic to us, first of all. And just for, I just, last night at Torah Study, I was just transfixed it felt like, wow, I always wanted to feel like what it was there, like to be there on at Mount Sinai when the thunder happened, and I think I got a taste of that last night.
Oh, at the beginning of the Midrash?
Yeah.
There was some thundering coming out of this mouth, yeah.
There was a thundering, but I'll tell you, I mean, Father's just really fine-tuning me. You know, you say it over and over, and you're continuing to encourage us, but I think for those who are really hearing, it's like drilling, you know, you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and we're growing. I know I feel it a lot, and I just thank you so much.
Good. Excellent.
And one of the things I want to remark, too, is that I truly am becoming more and more deeply convinced and convicted that Father Yahweh speaks through you. And I think we talked about watching The Chosen. You know, I watch it. I cringe at some things, and I get all excited about some things. But one of the things that has blessed me on that particular program is that sense of I can kind of identify emotionally with being able to sit at the feet of Yeshua. And I'm feeling that more and more and more. I don't want to miss what's coming out of your mouth. I feel like I'm sitting at the feet of Yeshua. And I just thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. I'm not quite as emotional as the one they put in The Chosen.
Well, yeah, but in a different way.
and certainly not as weak. They really made him kind of weak, and I don't know why they did that, but, well, I know why they did that. But.
Well, I love the one where he says, I am the law of Moses. That was great.
He has his strong moments, but he has a lot of weak moments.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, watching him fret about the Sermon on the Mount was pretty pathetic, so.
Anyway, the main point that I want to share was this morning on the Zoom meeting, I thank that precious lady who brought up the question about prayer, because being a Christian for so many years, this is like peeling layers of an onion, many layers, trying to get a handle on prayer. But as I'm moving forward and as you're preaching and I'm listening more and more, I've begun to pray more for myself than I do for others. I do like to pray for others. And I liked your point that Yahweh is pleased when we show compassion to identify with others and what they're going through. But I find when I ask for myself or for my efforts to serve Elohim, to be successful, it's like, and I'm fervently beginning to identify with his name, his authority, his honor. The more I pray for myself, I find what it does, I'm losing that Christian sense of like, I really hope he'll do this for me and, and understanding, no, he's already going to do something. He's decided what he's going to do. But what I feel happening as I'm praying for myself is that I'm opening my heart to receive inspiration, motivation, discipline, ! And the ability to perceive when opportunities come and when open doors really are there, to perceive when I need to draw a boundary, and what things need to fall away and what things need to be zeroed in on. And my whole day, my day-to-day is really changing. And I praise Abba because I see that, I'm praying to the God who listens. I'm developing emunah, and it's activating my faith receptors to receive what he's already planned to give me, to accomplish in me and through me. And so I'm starting to see that thing in James 1, the effectual, fervent prayer, or you can't receive if you're double-minded. It's about receiving. It's not that he doesn't want to do it. Right? It's about ability to receive and getting those blinders off. So anyway, I just hope that helps somebody.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. Look, I'm going to use something a little bit out of context. It's not the way it was presented exactly. But in the Matrix, when Neo goes to the Oracle, see if you can follow what I'm going to go with this. He thought he was fussing and fretting over the decision that he was going to have to make. And she said, no, you've already decided. You're just not comfortable in accepting that decision. You're struggling to accept the decisions. You've already decided, okay? And so think of it now and apply that to when you talk to the Father. He's already decided. The problem is whether or not you're okay with his answer. So it's kind of, hopefully that kind of connects a little bit. It's not exactly matching perfectly, but the idea of you being okay with the answer. Now, in Neo's case, it was his decision. In your case, it's the Father's decision, but can you be okay? This is where, I know you guys remember me teaching about this, and Brianna wrote a beautiful song about it, Dayenu, right? He's already done a lot in your life. Not just a lot what we read scripturally, etc., but in your own life. And yet, you want more, which is fine. But you have to have the Dayenu, which is, and if you do not give me more, I'm totally happy with what you've given me up to this point because you've done so much. I would like more, but you have to have the peace that if it doesn't end up more, okay? And that's where the Dayenu comes in. Look, it's like I've told you that one time, now I almost never get sick, but boy, did I get sick a few years ago where I almost died, whatever. At least that's what it looked like it could have been. And if anybody who came to see me, which is very few of you, but the people who got to see me can tell you I had no issue with if that was my condition, if it never got any better, whatever it was, because I appreciated how much I was blessed, and I had no struggle accepting the new reality, if that was the new reality, where I could hardly breathe, and I was on oxygen and all this other stuff. Okay? People around me were stressing over it because they didn't want to accept it either, which is hard. It's hard to accept when something happens to someone you love, etc. But it's the accepting the reality of the situation that brings the peace, okay? And the teaching, peace in a world not his, that's kind of the main point of it is, hey, this is not his world. It is what it is, but can you have peace in that? And in your own personal world, you may struggle to have peace with your situation not being ideal to what you would like. But it's a lot more ideal than it was before in a lot of ways because you have a relationship now that makes it that way. So go into your own prayer closet, so to speak, or your private time, and think about how much emunah Dayenu you have. okay, where not only do you trust him for everything, but you're okay if it doesn't get any more. You're okay with where he's gotten you to this point. That's not to say you should stop wanting more, okay?
Amen. That's wonderful. So would you say that emunah, accepting that my prayers aren't going to change him. He's got a plan. He's going to do it.
Right.
But that the only thing I really have control over is whether I get the reward at the end. Wouldn't
true.
You say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you can accept anything.
Yeah, but the thing is, what we struggle is the reward now. We want to enjoy life in a certain way now, and if we don't get that now, then we get all depressed, frustrated, anxiety, whatever, okay? But as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, whether you're getting the results you want or not, but you're doing what's pleasing in His sight, you're gonna get the ultimate reward ultimately. And that's really what it's all about. Now, look, my son still comes to me every now and then talking about big plans he has for his future. And so your Heavenly Father's like that. He wants to hear your big plans for your future and what you're hoping to accomplish. And some of the things he tells me he may accomplish, some of them he may not. But I like hearing that he's trying to plan ahead and plan, especially if the plan makes sense. And so you bring these things to your father saying, hey, Father, I know I'm 70-something years old or 60-something years old or whatever age you are, and say, you know what, but I think I can do so much more still in the time I have. And your father's going to say, cool, let's see what you do with that, okay? And he may bless it, he may not, he may just let you struggle and play with it, but it's good to see that you haven't quit and you're still aiming higher, you're still striving to be productive and to grow. Amen? All right, Selena.
Hi. So I have a counseling appointment scheduled next week, but I'm going to ask
Thanks for the warning.
Might bring the kids too.
Now the double warning.
Triple warning.
Triple, that's true.
Yeah. So we can get into specifics if needed, but I'm going to ask this generally because it came up in an old teaching I was watching.
Okay.
You just said that, Yahweh can get angry, and we're made in His image, so we get angry. So can you talk about anger, how to express it properly, not exploding or suppressing, and the usefulness of anger? I struggle with this emotion because I've never seen it done correctly. I've never seen any benefit to being angry, although apparently I do feel angry. Janet, we finally got there in therapy last week. She's like, do you feel angry? I'm like, I think I do. And it was a justified thing.
Right.
So, but I don't know where to go with it because...
Right. Let me take a shot at it. Okay, first of all, Scripture tells you not to go to sleep on your anger, right? To go to bed on, which means that it didn't say don't have anger. It just says you're going to have anger. So, but anger comes... I was going to say not that it comes in many flavors. There's lots of different things that are the underlying cause of anger, okay? And so that's what matters to me more than anything else, okay? I think we all can suffer from what I would call frustration anger. Okay? Frustration is something you're dealing with, it's just not working. Okay? You're not making progress, you're not getting where you want to go, or something's just not working that you're trying to do, and we get to what we call frustration anger. I think that's a normal anger we all can get to, and that's something that sometimes we need to express that to cathartically just get it out, and then we feel better and it's over with, provided we're certainly not targeting it at anybody else. Okay? All right? So spouses, if you hear your spouse, blast out at nobody because they're frustrated with something, just let them blast out as long as it's done and they don't come and dish it out on anybody else. Because it's a brought or built up emotion that needs to come out and be dealt with, all right? I'm not encouraging people to just go ahead and blast out. Most things that are frustrating, you should be able to eventually calm down, take a breath, and not actually get angry with it, but sometimes it happens. All right, there's an accumulation effect, and we may just have that outburst. The main thing is that we don't want anger to be like the anger in Matthew that Yeshua talks about, where you're angry or hating your brother. You're angry with them, okay? Now, let this be an important lesson. There's a difference between being angry at a behavior or frustrated with a behavior or upset about a behavior or upset about the person, okay? So if I say to you, knock it off, you're frustrating me, or that's annoying, I could either be saying what you're doing is annoying and frustrating, or I could be saying you are annoying and frustrating. You, like that's your being. And if you take it the one way, you'll think of me differently than if you take it the other way. If you realize I'm only talking about what you were doing at that moment, you're not going to take it so personally. And you're going to say, okay, sorry, I'll stop and I'll do something else. But if you think I think you're something, and now you're owning it as a label on you, then you're going to be thinking, well, then why does that person love me? Why are they even friends with me? Why are they married to me? If they think I'm such an annoying person, whatever. You're going to take it a wrong way. Does that make sense? All right? So as long as we're able to separate that the anger, the frustration, whatever it is that you're dealing with is about a situation, not necessarily the person you're dealing with as a whole. Now, of course, if you're like me and your frustration comes from trying to log into something, now there's no person to get mad at. It's inanimate technology, right? So I don't have to target anybody. But if you come by me at that moment, you may get snapped at. So you should realize he's not mad at me. Just let me get out of the way. He's trying to log into something and it's not working. Okay? But you should be able to do that with anybody. Recognize that your timing may be poor. So I tried to teach my children, and since you essentially in some ways are like all my children, not the TV show, just like you being all my children, that you should, some of you got that. Okay, so, and if you did, shame on you for watching that nonsense. But you guys should all understand, I taught my children a very important skill. This will help you, Selena, hopefully. It's situational awareness, okay? In other words, you have to recognize two ways, your situation or the people you're interacting with. So if you walk up on somebody, you may want to first assess, are they dealing with anything? Are they in a good mood? Are they struggling with something? Are they frustrated? Are they angry? Whatever it is, so that you don't take whatever's coming out of there in the wrong way. So especially if you hear a lot of loud noise from them and they're yelling at the computer or whatever it is, you probably should realize, if I walk in now, I may get the collateral damage on this deal. Now, you, on the other hand, looking at yourself, situational awareness. I'm doing something that I should know, if it doesn't work, could make me angry and frustrated, so I should calm myself down, knowing that that may happen, because this is a situation that tends to cause a problem for me. And everybody has whatever that is. You guys all know about me with passwords, but it could be you with whatever your thing is, right? That tends to get you frustrated. It could be you're a challenged cook, and whenever you go to do certain things, somehow you mess it up or you burn it or whatever it is. You may be challenged with whatever, fill in the blank, okay? And so you should have an awareness that when you go to do that thing that generally has a high chance of causing you a challenge, that you go into it knowing that that may be the case, so that you're prepared and can respond differently, okay? All right? And the same thing where if you're the person who's already upset, you probably don't need to go and interact with a lot of people till you fix that, all right? So he realizes we're going to be upset and frustrated, et cetera, that it's not something that would, look, Yeshua threw a pretty good, I don't want to say it fit like in a bad way, but when he went and dealt with the money changers, he was, he popped his cork pretty good. We'll call it righteous indignation if you want to spin it that way, but he was trying to make a point, and he made it very strongly. And then he went into a whole bunch of, in Matthew 23, a whole bunch of, woe unto you, you Pharisees, you Sadducees, you hypocrites, okay? Wow. All right, he was upset, all right? But he was upset with the behavior, and they're misusing or abusing the role that they had, right? Not necessarily with each individual person. He's saying you guys are doing something that's hurting the people you're supposed to be helping because of the way you handle these things, okay? All right, so did that help at all?
Yes, with some of the stuff my kids were asking in the car on the way here, but that's not actually my issue. I actually can't get to the anger part. Like with some of the big T trauma stuff we're dealing with, I can't get, I should be angry, but it's like, what's the point? No, justice is never going to happen.
No, hold on. There's no should get angry. Okay, everybody hear that. You don't need to respond like maybe other people respond or somebody thinks you should respond to anything, okay? You respond the way you respond. I mean, there's lots of things that people look at me like, that doesn't bother you? I'm like, no, it bothers somebody else, but I don't really see any point to it. Like you just said, you don't see a point to it. So don't say you should get angry. You just want to make sure that you're processing honestly, okay?
See, I'm not, because I'm having a lot of body pain. Like when we were having the appointment this past week, I was having some body pain, like pretty serious. And then when I acknowledged that I was angry, it dissipated.
Right.
So
then maybe you're learning a biofeedback, which is, by the way, for those who don't know this, and I learned this when I worked in physical therapy, you know, some of you are like, that's another job you had? Okay. We do often in trauma situations embed that emotional trauma in our body, in our muscles or in our joints and stuff like that. So you can have a trauma reaction in your body because of something going on in your head. So I don't want you to say this is psychosomatic where it's all in your head. It's connected to what's going on in your head, okay? My mother-in-law almost wanted to throw me out of the house because my wife was having a problem, and I said something about it being the stress she was having is causing whatever she was going through, and she translated that from being her poor English to, you know, your husband thinks that it's all in your head. I didn't say that. I said the stress of moving and everything is causing the pain she's having, okay? So there is a connection between what's going on in your head. So in your case, the biofeedback is when I'm in body pain, there may be not or unacknowledged, I don't know what the right English words for that is, but there's anger you haven't acknowledged. So maybe that's when you have to start to think about where can I acknowledge the anger about a situation, because then when I do, it releases the pain. Okay?
So how do I get there? I mean, one of my kids uses a punching bag, but that seems exhausting to me. Like, what are there techniques that...
No, you don't have to actually do anything. You can be quietly angry, you can yell and scream, you can hit something like the punching bag or the pillow or something like that. There's lots of ways you can deal with your anger, okay? I'm kind of just loud about it for 5 seconds and then it goes away, all right?
Okay.
But there are other people that handle it other ways. What you don't want to do is bottle it up. Bottling it up either causes body pain or causes ulcers or some other thing, and eventually, a lot of you with the color code white personality, you become the most dangerous because at some point you explode, okay? Because you're bottling it up, but it has to come out. So it's got to go somewhere. And in the past, you've been channeling it internally. So your body has been repressing it, and then it manifests as pain because you have to deal with it. But dealing with it doesn't mean you have to be angry. You have to realize there's something that you haven't dealt with that should make you angry, but rather than be angry, you repressed it and it went into your body.
Okay, so maybe just like journaling or just acknowledging that
Acknowledging it, journaling it. You don't need to have an overtly angry reaction, okay?
Okay.
So try different things and see if it really, I mean, what did you do when the pain went away? How did you acknowledge that anger?
She just asked me if I was angry, and I just kind of stopped, and I went, oh, yeah, I am.
And then the pain went away.
Yes.
So that's all you needed to do.
Oh, okay.
You acknowledge the
easy.
anger, okay? But I'm just saying, your body's giving you literally what we call biofeedback, okay? You're getting feedback from your body. You weren't acknowledging the pain, so the pain was there. As soon as you acknowledged it, it was because of anger, it went away.
Huh.
So now you know what to do. Okay? Had you just acknowledged it and the pain didn't go away, then there may have been another thing you might have needed to do. But in your case, it worked very simply. Okay?
Well, that was easy.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, Betty.
I'm just going to make a little comment story.
I love stories.
What you were talking about with tithing.
Yes.
Until we found you, we really didn't know anything about the third tithe. And so when we went to Sukkot 2019, when we left, my husband goes, okay, we're going to start our third tithe. Okay, no big deal. When we moved here in 2020, along with our daughter and granddaughter, they moved into the other apartment. We were paying 2 rents, 2 electric bills, which was fine for a little while. She got a job. Well, then COVID hit. She lost her job. And I'm like, okay, we can't do the third tithe, Harold, on just your job, because we can't afford to pay the 2 rents, the 2 electric bills, 2 of everything, and still do a third tithe. And he goes, no, we're doing the third tithe. Everything will be fine. I guess for me, I needed to hear that from him because it made no sense. Because we had money left over, and we shouldn't have had any money left over after paying all her bills and our bills.
Right.
So I just want to let people know out there, if it doesn't look like it's going to make sense, do it anyway, because Yahweh will not let you fail.
All right, let me ask a question to everybody. We won't get to see the hands, but just curiosity. Anybody that's doing all 3 tithes, is there anybody here that doesn't have an it doesn't make sense experience? It doesn't have. Not one hand. In other words, everybody, if you're a tithe, this is for all of you out there. If you're going to do the 3 tithes, you've never done the 3 tithes, trust me, everybody goes through the, I can't afford it, this doesn't make sense. Then they do it and it works and it doesn't make sense. Okay? Everybody, just so you know, everybody in this room that tithes, I'm not going to have you raise your hand to say you tithe or not, because that'd be embarrassing, right, to those who don't raise their hands. But everybody, I asked for anybody that doesn't have that experience, not a hand went up. Okay? So I just wanted you to know out there, if you're struggling thinking, but this isn't going to work. All right? By the way, what they also could have done is realize, no, we have to have our daughter finally grow up, take care of herself, not pay both our bills and everything else. Okay? Because that also may have been the answer to the reality check. Okay? There's no reason for you to, and by the way, not tithing is not an excuse because, well, we're paying for our adult child and all these other things that we don't really need to be doing. I'm just trying to help you guys understand the perspective on this, okay? Pete.
So, Rabbi, last night we paid attention to your dialogue about if you're doing this but you're not doing that, you're not doing enough, and you're not getting in, you're not doing what you should, and you kind of echoed that again today.
Right. And wait, I want to rephrase that. I don't want you to say. I don't like the phrasing "you're not doing enough." You have to make the effort to do everything, and that's it. In other words, if you're only doing some, it's not that you're not doing enough. It's just doing some is not what you were asked to do. You were asked to do all. So I don't want you to think it, because not enough means that you're doing, but somehow you're falling short. No. If you're choosing to only do some, you're falling short of the expectation that you try to do and make the effort to do all. It's just a different wording, saying the same thing, but I don't want people to think that, well, I'm working as hard as I can, but I'm not doing enough. No. Are you making the effort to keep all commands? You may be really great at 1 or 2 of them, but are you doing all of them, is the point. Okay.
So she asked, are we doing everything we're supposed to be doing? And I said, yeah, I think so. I mean, we do all 3 tithes. We do the third, we keep up the third
Your
tithe.
wife asked this.
She asked.
Okay.
And we do the third tithe even when it's not a third tithe year, just so we're constantly giving all 3.
Right.
We honor the feast, we honor Shabbat, we're keeping kosher, we're not violating any of the 10. And it seems like, we're checking these boxes, but my question is, how do we know we're not missing something? Is there some kind of checklist or something we can go by to assess ourselves to see how we're doing?
At the moment, no, there's no checklist. I mean, I may make my own version of a list of what the Bible gives us as far as Yahweh's commandments. The ones actually are there, not some guess at 613 of them and whatever extrapolation. But the thing is this. It says what is revealed belongs to you. So as long as you have something revealed to you and you're making the effort to do it, then you know you're doing what you need to do. Because if you're missing anything that hasn't been revealed to you, then it's okay that you're missing it. It just hasn't been revealed to you yet. He wants to see what you do with what he reveals, okay? So hopefully that answered the question mostly?
It does, but we always have that anxiety about if
no anxiety.
Well, if somebody crosses the center line on me on my way home, I need to at least have some assurance in my own mind that I have done everything I can. My concern is the stuff I'm not aware of that I may have left out.
Don't worry about that stuff, okay? A, you're only responsible for what you know. B, as long as you are making every effort to make sure that you know everything that you're supposed to know that you're responsible for, you've listened to the teachings, you've paid attention. So in other words, I don't want you hiding in the basement somewhere so that you don't have to do what's revealed, so you're not going to learn anything. But if he sees that remember, it's Deuteronomy 8:2. He wants to see that your heart wants to get this right. Your heart wants to obey the commandments. Your heart wants to do what is, you understand what I'm saying? So that's, if a car jumps the line and takes you out on your way home tonight, you should have assurance that you've made the effort and your heart was to make the effort with integrity. Not that you're going to do it perfectly, but if you ever mess up, which by the way, the teaching you might get next week is a redo of repentance. Okay, since that one is only on audio, even though it's on YouTube, but it's still only audio. Okay, but that came up today earlier, and it's coming up again, the idea of, if you are repenting properly, and you are making the effort to seek and search out what he expects of you, right? Because it says to diligently seek out what's well-pleasing to the master. So as long as you're making the effort, you don't have to worry about, did I miss something that he didn't show you, wasn't revealed, and that you didn't find? Okay? Because if you show the appropriate diligence and openness to do what he says that you have had revealed, he should have no problem believing that anything else he reveals to you, you'll treat the same way. But he's watching how you treat what he already revealed. So those of you that are still not doing certain things, like you haven't given up certain foods, or you haven't gotten your tithing right, or you're still not keeping the feast, or whatever it is that you're not doing, or you're doing Shabbat kind of sloppy, if you died tomorrow, you may have a problem because you're showing him this is how you handle his stuff. That's the parable of the talents kind of again, right? How do you handle his stuff? So if you are handling his stuff with integrity of heart, making the best effort you can to do it as fully as you can, you should have all assurance that you're fine. We don't do anxiety, Pete.
Thank you, Rabbi. I've got something else, but I'll get back in line.
Okay. But just hopefully that makes sense to you. And by the way, he did say something, which is what I would like the board for, so I could just write it out. He said something about doing the third tithe every year. Let me make sure everybody understands this, all right? At some point, to really be financially secure, like where you have your life financially no issue, you need to get to some point where your money is actually working for you. It's not just paying bills. If all the money that comes in goes to paying bills and maybe a little bit of an entertainment for you and that's it, you're going to struggle to do that all your life. And then when you get old enough where you really can't do what you were doing, then you're going to really struggle, okay? And so what I had recommended to people is when you're third tithing, put that third tithe away every single year. But in year one, you use it to pay off your bills and get out of debt. Year two, the same thing. If you are already paid all your bills and out of debt, like when I say pay your bills, I don't mean like your regular everyday bills. I mean any kind of credit cards and loans and other debt like that. Once you're out of debt, then you start using it to invest. Year one, year two. Year three, you send it in like a proper third tithe. Year four, year five, you put it into investment or getting out of debt or whatever you need to do. Then year six, you send it in like you're supposed to. Year 7, 1 and 2, same thing. You get to use it for everything but normal bills. Don't do normal things with that money's for above and beyond. Your regular money should take care of your normal bills. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, don't all of a sudden think, oh, I got this extra money and I'm just gonna go out on 5 vacations. No, it's for not you, okay? It's for your future or it's for benevolence, meaning the third tithe in year 3 and 6. Does that make sense? This is not money for you to spend. It's not spending money. Okay, your core 70% of your money, that's spending money. Not spending first tithe, you're not spending second tithe, you're not spending third tithe. Okay, they have purposes. But then if you're doing it every year, it's a forced investment savings for your future. And your budget stays the same all through the 7-year cycle because you're not changing 2 tithes, 2 tithes, 3 tithes, 2 tithes, 2 tithes, 3 tithes, you know? You're not doing that. So hopefully that makes some sense to all of you, right? Because let's say you make $50,000 a year between you and your spouse or just you yourself, whatever, just pick a nice round number. That means you have $5,000 a year to put towards getting out of debt, and if you're already out of debt, to put towards in some sort of investment in your future. Maybe you save up and you get some rental property. Maybe you save up and get some good dividend stocks. Maybe you save up and get whatever it is that you think will give you something in the future where the money is working for you. Take those little money soldiers and put them to work. Problem is you don't have any to put to work. So if you use this system that I kind of came up with to help your finances, I think that would help all. I mean, in a 7-year cycle, that's 5 of those in a 7-year cycle. That's $25,000. Some of you think, I could never come up with $25,000 in 7 years. You could this way if you made $50,000 a year because you'd be putting it aside. You put it aside in year 3 and 6. Why not just do it every year? Okay? But don't spend that money. That money is for your future or getting out of debt so you can have a future. All right? That money is not for spending. Okay, so hopefully that made some sense to you. Okay, Deirdre.
Hi, Dad.
Oh, wait, and one more thing. Did you all catch when Betty was up here that her husband said, and then her reaction? First of all you men, the husband said, we're doing it. It's going to be fine. Key words. He said, we're doing it, but he also said, it's going to be okay. Husbands, don't just say you're doing something. Reassure the wife, it's going to be okay. All right? Because she needs to hear that you're confident, I got it, and he's got it, we're good, don't worry about it. Okay, good job, Harold. Now, but then good job on Betty, she said, okay, all right? So ladies, if your husband says it's gonna be okay, you're gonna have to trust him that it's gonna be okay. They're like, you don't know my husband. Well then, why'd you marry him? You gotta believe that he can actually handle these things and that it's gonna be okay. How's he ever gonna become that man if you never give him the chance and you don't trust and believe in him? All right, you're supposed to be his support mate, his helpmeet, okay? You're supposed to encourage him and say, I believe in you. But I just want you to hear that part of what Betty said, because that was really key. She went to him. Well, first of all, he went to her and said, we're doing this. And she said, well, how are we going to do that? And he said, don't worry about it. It's good. And she said, okay. All right. That's what you must do. All right, Deirdre.
Hi, Dad.
Hi.
So I've got 3, but I'll jump back in line, and I'll say the most.
Okay, and just for anybody who doesn't know us, she's not actually my daughter, but she is one of those adopted sort of daughters. So some of them like to come up and say, hi, Dad or Papa or something. So just so you know. All right, go ahead.
It helps reinforce I'm safer now.
Good. That's the whole point.
Yeah. And speaking of safety, that's actually what I want to talk about for the first question.
Okay.
Deuteronomy 22, verses 23 through 29, it talked about what Israel on a whole, as a cohesive nation, was meant to do in case a woman was attacked, what the man was supposed to do if he attacked a woman. So obviously, we're not living in that type of society, and the world is a very scary place. And so I want to know, for all the women out there, I want to ask this question. What do we, as daughters of Israel, do when we could be put in a situation where, sorry for the trigger warning, sexually our safety is compromised? What does Yahweh expect us to do? Because there are many
With everything that comes out of my mouth, you were concerned about saying that?
No, I'm like, not you. Like, there are women that have been through the situation.
So that it may trigger a remember.
Exactly.
Okay, I understand.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, like, do we fight back? Do we submit because sometimes, like, other lives are threatened?
Okay, look, sexual assault, undesired sexual attention, okay, is a little bit tricky, okay, in terms of the actual how you should react. In that moment, and every moment's probably going to be a little different, you got to first be thinking about safety, okay? So as much as you may not desire the act, if standing up and trying to say, and you should at least make the effort to say, no, I'm not interested, stop, get away, whatever. But if it gets violent and physical and resisting is only going to get you a lot more damage, I would probably think it'd be better just to not, and then afterwards do what you have to with the police and everything else, whatever you need to do to be safe. The main thing is, you're going to get harmed to some degree. You should use some wisdom in that terribly challenging moment to figure out how much, based on what I do, will this make it better or worse? If acting out and defending yourself might minimize it to some degree, absolutely, please do. But you could get killed too, or you could get permanently damaged in some way. So I don't have a real good answer for you. It's the most awful thing I can imagine, somebody going through. But I want you, if you are ever in that moment, Yah forbid you should be in that moment, but if you're ever in that kind of moment, always through your mind, just don't think about hating what was happening, but think about, if I fight, whatever I do, am I going to get killed, permanently damaged in some way? And so, because as long as you live through and can get out, then you could do something after. But again, if there's a chance your fighting back could stop it, great. Make that effort. Gauge that effort. Always make the effort up front, but gauge that effort. If that effort looks like it might get you in a lot more violent beating of whatever, because sexual interaction on that level is 99% of the time, it's a violent act, not a sexual act. Even though sex is happening, it's about the dominance and the violence. So there's a lot of physical beating and pounding of some sort that's happening. And so, it's such a hard question, okay? Absolutely, you should speak up. You should actually try to say no, try to get away, whatever you need to do. But when it becomes obvious that that is not going to stop anything, then you got to think about, how do I get out of this with the minimum of damage? okay? And I don't know what the right answer is, okay? Fighting may get you there. Fighting may make it worse. You're gonna have to gauge it yourself and make your best guess, right? Because you're already in a horrible place at that point, all right?
Okay. I knew that there was a law in place back then, and we don't have that now. So,
Well, I mean, this is still, the law is in place for what happens after it's happened. And we still have laws today for after it happened. I mean, you still can go to the police and there's things that you can do, okay, after this horrible thing might have happened. So there's no difference in that case. But I'm just telling you, if you're in that situation today, I've heard enough stories and just watch the news to know that fighting back sometimes goes well. And the person's like, well, you know, I was attacked, but I fought back and then I was able to get away, or the person just decided it wasn't worth it. But then you have other stories where the person ended up dead.
Also, you have to gauge whether or not you have the skills to fight back. Like, are you trained in martial arts, boxing, whatever, or would it be just in your safety to?
Okay, you got to remember also, this is a dominance, imposing, violent type of thing, which means that the more you forcefully try to counter the dominance, you make them double up sometimes to say, I need to really impose my dominance. So it's really not a good answer. There's no good answer to give, okay? You should absolutely not just lay there silently or just take anything, but gauge the response to your efforts to stop it, you know, and intervene in some way, all right? But you gotta be also thinking, is this gonna end up having me killed, okay? Or am I gonna get some sort of permanent damage because of this? And, you know, and make some sort of decision based on that horrible, I mean, sometimes we have to make really tough decisions in really bad situations. And I can't give you the right answer for all of them, so I'm just encouraging you, pay attention, not just to how you feel at the moment and you're scared and you're upset and all of that, but think about, I could get really hurt, okay? So try what you can try, but gauge to see if it has any chance of working, and then you'll have to make a decision.
Okay.
Okay?
So again, to anyone that's been through that experience, I didn't want to trigger you. I felt like as girls, as daughters of the Most High King, we need to know how to protect ourselves and how to behave. So I love you all.
All right, now, I'm gonna throw something out there, two things, okay? That hopefully, ladies, you're paying attention. There's two factors that play into these type of events, okay? And the first one is not always the case. The second one is always the case, all right? But the second one may also be connected to the first one. Ladies, some of you ladies are inviting some of this because you dress in ways and act in ways to entice attention. That doesn't mean dress like a burlap sack. I'm just saying be careful of the way that you might get flirtatious. You may get, if you're single, etc., with people, and they may read that wrong. And the wrong person reads that wrong, may really get, you know, tempted to do that. That doesn't mean that always happens. We hear people just jogging down the road and somebody attacks them. So that brings me to the second point, which is always the case. You got to think about how available are you isolated somewhere to be a victim, okay? You got to think about your environment, where you are, and if you're by yourself, and where this and what's going on, so that you are not setting yourself up. Because the people who do this stuff don't just do it in big crowds. They want to isolate you out somewhere, okay? They want to see where they can get you off by yourself. They don't want an audience, okay? Generally, you know, I'm sure there's an exception here or there, but I'm saying this is what you always see. Now watch the news. We heard about this the other day, that some illegal immigrant came and killed some lady while she was off jogging, by herself, alone, in a park, whatever, okay? I learned this when I was teaching martial arts to teach people self-defense. Your first defense is an awareness of where you are, what you're doing, and whether or not that sets you up to be more or less likely to be victimized, okay? You have to have an awareness, all right? This is important. Look, I'm so trained in this for my whole life that I'll be careful where I sit in a restaurant. I want the wall behind me. I want to be able to see the door. I want to know where everything. I just automatically figure all these things out as I walk in a building. But that was all part of the training. I mean, you know, you may want to think about, do you want to just sit with your back and you don't see what's going on behind you and people are coming in and what could happen and everything else? I want to be able to see what's going on. I can't react to it if I can't see it. The only time I don't do that is if I'm with somebody who their job is to keep me safe, and then I let them have that seat so that they're watching the door and watching everything, okay? But you got to be thinking about, am I going off in the morning and jogging all by myself? okay? So it's not about just the first part where you may be inviting some of this. I'm not saying by inviting that you deserve it. Please don't ever go there. There are idiots out there that want to say, well, you deserve it. Look how you dress. Look. No, but you could be inadvertently inviting some of this stuff, okay? Where the person goes, ooh. Now they're going to wait till you're by yourself somewhere to get that opportunity, right? But you've gotten their attention. So just kind of keep those things in mind. But the main thing is, it's your being by yourself and availability to have something happen privately where there's not going to get a whole lot of audience to it, okay? Because if there's an audience, they know they get in trouble, they get caught, they'll go to jail, whatever it is. And so hopefully that helps a little bit, okay? It's got to, all my military, police guys, you agree with what I'm saying? A lot of it has to do with just, you got to be aware. You got to know where you are, what's going on, what you're doing, and turn up the awareness level to as high as it can go. I don't want you to be afraid when you go out. I don't want you to be in fear. I'm not in fear when I do the things I do. It's just an awareness, okay? All right? Guys, if you're walking with your wife on the street, on the sidewalk, you should be on the street side. She should be on the inside. That seems like a very subtle thing and simple thing, but most of you guys won't do that, all right? But you should. She should be between you and the building. You should be between her and the street. Some of the ladies thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because then you are protected. And guys, when you're walking, you should have your eyes on a swivel everywhere. Not like paranoid, but you should be aware of anything that could possibly be a threat because you're the protector. And so you can know where to avoid and what to do and how to go. There are times I've been walking with my wife, I said, we're going to go across the street now and go on that side. Well, why? It's just we're going to do that because there's something over there I want to avoid and don't need to be bothering with, okay? So we're just going to go across the street. Guys, it's your job to be aware and to protect. Okay, I've got people that help watch my back when I'm doing things that are like on the safety team, so to speak. I'm the safety team for my family. Guys, you're the safety team for your wife, for your kids. You need to be aware. You can't be asleep and just enjoying life. You're on guard duty all the time. Again, not fear, just knowing it's your job, okay? Some of you, just from a leadership point of view, some of you who watch me doing my job, if you're talking to me, you'll notice that I'm talking to you, but I'm also aware of everything happening that is not you. Because part of my job is to be aware of everything that's happening, not from a safety point of view, just from it may need my leadership. So if I'm talking to you, right now I'm aware of what people are doing over here and people are doing over here, and I'm looking at everything. I've trained myself to always be looking at everything that my peripheral vision onto the front can pick up. So hopefully that helps a little bit for all of you, okay? All right, Rocky.
Thank you, Rabbi. I thought you'd never get done.
So did I.
The longer I stand up here, the harder my heart beats. I get half dizzy, like, oh my goodness.
Well, I fully planned to finish before you passed out. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Right? Because I don't have fully comprehended what I'm going to say, which usually I don't to begin with, but it's about Acts chapter 2, verse 41 through 45. And then Acts chapter 4, 32 through 35. It pretty much says the same thing.
Right.
And, it's basically about how we're supposed to live in this unity, how we're supposed to be one heart and accord, one mind. And they trusted the disciples so much that they sold everything and gave it all to them, laid it at their feet, and they took care of you. And I remember when I first called you when I was going to move down here, and I said, well, where do I buy in at? I really thought that I was going to buy in, and I said, well, we're really not set up to do that. But I need to trust you that much that if I would sell everything and give it to you, that you would take care of me. I believe that. But what really bothers me is I really can't find that anywhere else in scriptures where it really refers to that. No other witness, that deep. Although Psalms 33:1 right there that's on your podium kind of touches on it there.
Right.
But I wonder how that got lost, I was taught in Christianity that, that was the start of the church. And then through the, what was that word? A brain fart. During the Dark Ages, or it's not the where they went out and they had the cross on their
Crusades.
Thank you, the Crusades, that they converted people to Christianity. But I don't believe that. I believe
at sword point.
Right. Yeah, you believe, eat pork and believe in this JC or you're going to die. And I believe that was not really what they did. I think they really believed they killed all the believers. I mean, I believe there was a bunches of them at one time.
Sure.
But, I don't really know. I mean, it's just, but it just seems like, just like last night you said there was like 800 people basically that really gave to what we're doing here. I'm stunned. I don't think, if people would really see you as you really are, and forget about the man Steve Berkson. I don't even like to say the man Steve Berkson. I got to know that man Steve Berkson. I like him, but I know that you are this prophet, and I know you're a man, and you're going to have faults and quirks and silly things too. But I don't even look at you like that. I look at you as a prophet, a rabbi, Steve. That's how I look at you. I tremble. I think about it. And it even says there in Acts that they trembled with the wonders and the signs that the prophets did and the apostles did. Isn't it a wonder of his teachings? Isn't it a sign to you what he's teaching us? I don't know how it can be. When I hear that voice come out of you that I believe is Yahweh, that makes me tremble. There's times that I shook. I'm shaking now just thinking about it. And although I'm a little excited to begin with, that's the way I am. But
look, there's a watering down. In other words, if I was, or a teacher was a very rare thing to find, which was more rare in Yeshua's day. There were teachers running around with students, but it was more rare to find. But you can find thousands of them on YouTube just by opening up your phone or your computer any day, all the time. And so it becomes the old, it's a dime a dozen to find a Torah teacher out there. And so then how do we distinguish that there's actually supposed to be an Ephesians 4:11 teacher out there as opposed to just any teacher out there? And what do we look for to find that? And what does that look like when you do find that? And then once we find it, how are we supposed to act and treat that person and the things that they are doing? What Rocky's referring to is I mentioned the other day that, we can look at the Subsplash app and see that year to date in 2024, it tells me we have 700 and something unique separate donors. In other words, not how many people, not how many donations we got, but just these are separate individuals, unique from each other, that have given. And when you consider that there's 45,000 subscribers and over 600 people watching right now, 600 computers watching right now, something like that. What do we have on there, Rob? 607 computers logged on. The question is, it's not about sending it here. I wonder how many people are tithing at least somewhere, okay? Because it's, again, I think that, and that's why you need to listen to last night, if you guys, whoever didn't listen to last night's Torah study, because I went through the first half hour of it kind of explaining that you can't pick and choose what Torah you're going to do. He expects you to do all of it, period. And tithing is one of them. And I'm not saying that for us. Look, again, I've heard so many churches beg for money because they needed it to pay the bill. We do not have that problem, okay? I'm not going to be able to build all the buildings I want all at once. We're going to build the first one, the big main one, and that's going to be done by October next year. And that's happening right now. It's being built. But I'm just saying is you guys need and have desired the other two buildings so that we have a dining hall and a yeshiva to start. And so we're just going to have to wait to get those. Now, that may be frustrating to some of you that would like to use these things, but it's just the way it is because you guys, some of you, are not obeying your commandments. And that's okay. That's hurting you. It's not hurting me. It's not hurting anybody else. Well, it is hurting other people. If you have a wife or children, it could be hurting them because you don't have your finances right. But it's certainly hurting you, okay? But all of this comes down to what he's talking about here in Acts is that, because a lot of people say, oh, we need to be like the first century. Really? You're going to take everything that you have, sell it all, and give it to me? And then have me distribute out and take care of it? Because you're not ready to do that. And you're not ready to do that because you do not, for the most part, Rocky does, but most of you do not see me correctly, okay? in terms of the role, not me as a person, I'm a mess of a person, okay? I'm not claiming to be anything but the role, okay? And so since you don't trust that, you don't participate as you should. And so that's the one main thing. They trusted the apostles, although we do have one little problem with, one little promise that didn't go well, and then they died. Ananias and Sapphira, right? We know about that one. And so, let's keep that in mind. But see, just remember, think about what you're asking for and what it would require. Because I've had people say all the time, oh, we need to be like the first century, assembly. Okay, I agree. Are you ready for that, though? Do you know what that means? Do you understand what that looked like? Now, as far as seeing other examples, he said that Psalm 133, verse 1, it says how good and how pleasant, right? And that's on the podium here. You can't see it on the camera. That's fine. But, you've seen it. There it is, okay? So that's from the verse. And still, you really can't read it because it's in tiny letters. All right, so don't worry about that. But it's Psalm 133, verse 1, how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. Okay. So that is sort of a witness, but what does that look like to dwell together in unity? There's a certain level of trust and providing for one another. You're also not ready for Acts chapter 2 and chapter 4 as he read, because you'd have to still be doing more than just laying back and saying, here, I gave you everything, now take care of me. That's sort of welfare, all right? As opposed to, here's everything distributed so everybody has what they need. I'm going to keep contributing more by going out there and being productive. Are you ready to actually do your part to be productive? There are some all-in communities in the world, and some of them work okay. I'm familiar with one, actually, that's even local here in Chattanooga and around the world, where, they all live in one house until they get afford and they get a second house for them all to live in, and they all work at, there's one business that they have, like they have a restaurant deli thing, and, and they don't get paid. All the money goes to take care of everybody's needs, so they all get their needs taken care of, instead of individually getting anything. And that's their all-in community. But, all-in community takes a lot of trust, okay? And quite frankly, and I think, Rocky, I told you this when you first asked me about it, I don't want the responsibility. And the reason I say that is it's not that I don't think I could handle it. I don't want to hear all of the feedback and the kickback and all of the backlash from people not liking the decisions that are made, okay? Because you're not ready to trust. So, we've had lots of discussions since the very first time we hosted a Sukkot 25 years ago, okay? Every time we have a gathering of people, everybody goes, wouldn't it be great for us to all live together? No. Because you're not ready for it. But we've thought about it, and we thought about, look, we got 130-something acres. We could put a whole bunch of you on that property. What I really love is that you all decided to move to Cleveland and get your own place. Not on my property, where if I have any problems with you, do you know how many people have been here that have quit, that live in Cleveland still, but they don't come here anymore? Aren't you glad they weren't on the property? Not because we didn't like them, but wouldn't that be a challenge to have people that are not part of us that are still living on the property? I mean, I still care about them. I still think they're wonderful people on some whatever level. Some of them I didn't really get to know very well, but still, some of them I run into here and there and we're friendly enough. But it would be a little awkward to have them on the property. See, we're not ready to make those levels of commitments, not ready to act the way they did in Acts 2. All right, so did I answer what you were saying, Rocky?
Yes. But it also, it reassures me that, the tares and the wheat are growing up together. And you're going to know you're a tare, or you're going to know you're a wheat just by your attitude. I mean, he's going to reveal to you, just as he reveals to the tare or the wheat, the same exact truth. You're going to know, because you're going to stand here and you're going to grind your teeth when you knew you was a tare and you didn't get away with it. Just like you're going to stand there and you're going to smile from ear to ear, knowing that you're going to get in because you know you was a wheat. It's a choice. It's an absolute choice that we could do this. I mean, we got to want it more than anything else. It's sad. We can't even get through marriages, and we divorce each other if we flirt wrong or something. I mean, it's just, let alone getting, along with each other as, just as other human beings.
Yeah.
So thanks for what it was worth.
All right, I appreciate that. But okay, so listen, let's talk about the money thing again for a second. We have, and have always had, enough to take care of the local needs, to pay for the local staff to be able to do this full time. But think about if all of you were tithing like you're supposed to, we could have full-time ministry around the world. Full-time. Everybody needs full-time. People in the Philippines need full-time. In Australia, full-time. In the UK, full-time. South Africa, full-time. New Zealand, full-time. Every country you can name, full-time. They need somebody, just like you do, to be available. We work, Elder and I, with Rabbi Tom, all of us work every day, normal work hours, and we're available. And guess what? We're busy every day. Because there's that kind of need every day. When I say busy, I mean interacting with you. Okay? Not just saying that we're sitting there doing our paperwork and writing our teachings and everything. We are literally every day dealing with you guys. Some of you think, well, Rabbi, you only take calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's officially. Believe me when I tell you I take calls Monday, Wednesday, and Friday too. But sometimes I do need to get the paperwork done and some of the other things done so we can have some other things get done. There is some administrative things to do. But I remember when we were looking to rent a building 12 years ago when we first came to Chattanooga, Cleveland area, we went to a bunch of churches thinking they might have a gym or something we could rent. We couldn't find one that had anybody there in the middle of the week. We got people here every day, all day, all right? Because we're trying to work to serve the body needs it. So at 45,000 subs, if you guys were tithing, think about the amount of funds we'd have to build congregations everywhere, because there's enough people in a lot of places to have that kind of a thing, but it takes money, okay? And some places are poor, and you guys think you're poor here. No, they're really poor, okay? There are some countries where they just, and if you want to think about what things cost here and what things cost there, your dollar is really strong in some places, okay? All right? Look, I went, trying to think how much it was. I can't even remember. I went out with my daughter. We just got pizza and drinks. It must have been like $40, okay? I was in South Africa. A large pizza was, when I divided the rand into dollars, I think it was like $83 in rand. It was like $4. That same pizza here is like $12, $15, okay? So there are people that are really struggling, all right? They're really struggling. And they don't bring in enough tithes to really be able to pay for a lot of stuff. So those of you that have, and you can contribute by doing just what you're supposed to do, that money then can go and do these other things, which, by the way, scripturally, it doesn't say I need to do any of that. But I have more than I need, because it's first supposed to take care of me, and it does. And that's why we're able to pay for this building that you're in, which you enjoy, this would never be able to be done if we didn't have this building. So we were able to buy this building. But now we're outgrowing this building, so we're building a new building, okay? We wouldn't be able to own the one we own in Urbana, Ohio, or the one in Odessa, Texas, or the different things that we're doing so that we can have these congregational spaces. And that's more than most ministries have in terms of Messianic, all right? So we're not bragging. I'm just saying Abba has blessed, and you guys are doing, the ones who are doing your part. But you're really not, you're all thinking, well, we need to do more to reach more people. Then put your money where your mouth is. Because that's how we reach more people. Okay? The best way to reach people is to plant a building and give people a place they can go. Okay? It's not about knocking on doors and bothering people in line at the supermarket. It's about having a building with a sign on it and having people know, and we can announce when we have this big bully pulpit, hey, and by the way, we are going to start putting announcements up to let you know who to contact in New Zealand, who to contact in Australia, who to contact in the Philippines, who to contact in Odessa, who to contact in all the different places that we have, in South Africa, etc. All right? Where all the m.t.o.i extensions are. Because we have very strong, thriving groups in a lot of countries, okay? And it's so funny. When Rebbetzin said, oh, we got somebody in Papua New Guinea. Well, that person showed up at our zone meeting last night and introduced themselves. I was like, wow, we got somebody in Papua New Guinea, all right? And actually right now, Monica De Leon, who's in Mexico, she's actually in Vietnam visiting her son. So we got somebody in Vietnam who's in the zone meeting. So we got people in Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia, okay, Fiji, okay, with Portugal and the UK and other parts of Europe. We got people, I think we had someone in Sweden. We got Denmark, lots of different countries, Germany, that come into the meeting, India, You start naming countries. We got people that have been in the meetings. I'm just naming people that I interact with in these meetings. Mozambique, Namibia. Okay, last night we had this morning, someone from Mozambique, and we got a group in Namibia as well. Of course, Tanzania, where we got Michelle. Okay, we got people in all these places. They all need more than just a live stream. Okay? Now, I'm going to do as much as I can with what I have, and everybody else out there is just going to have to be patient until we have more. But you got to decide how much you're participating in that. And by the way, it's not about participating with this. You got to just be obedient. But I can't afford to. Then fix the problem. The problem is not, can we all understand the problem is not the Torah commandment? Well, my budget would be fine if I didn't have to do 3 tithes. No, your budget wouldn't be fine because you need to do 3 tithes. So fix your budget. I don't know what's so hard about all that. Figure out where your spending leaks are, so your money's just leaking out of there, and then figure out what you need to do to fix your income. Some of you just got too comfortable and complacent, living your quiet life of desperation, just sort of making it, whatever, getting by with what you have. Couldn't think of the phrase I was looking for there. Sorry about that. All right, Chris Wybe.
And now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Okay. In Daniel and the lion's den, before the lion's den happened, so this has to do with...
Wait a minute, but let me just use you as an example for a second. So Chris came here in the middle of college. Okay, from where he was living, he moved to Cleveland to finish out his college. But Chris picked a career that he now makes enough and can make enough that he doesn't need another career necessarily, that he makes now at his age and going forward. He is doing what I've encouraged to do. Pick something that will pay you enough now at your age in your 20s, but will also make you enough when you're in your 40s. Okay? And that's the kind of thing, as a matter of fact, you're probably going to be making 40s money when you're 20s. I mean, that's showing that you picked something and aimed at something that can get you where you need to go. So I'm proud of you. Okay? Because I watched you struggle as a broke college student. And he was broke. He worked a job at the local supermarket, did what he could and went to school, but he was aiming at something that would work, and it is working. Okay? And that's something that we should all be proud of. Now, some of you are thinking, but I'm not in my 20s anymore, now what do? You can still fix your problem. Okay? Start remembering that most people live into their 80s plus now, okay? Easily into their 80s plus. All right, my father-in-law just had his 95th birthday, okay, a couple of days ago. All right, so, I mean, it's common enough, okay? I thought it was a big deal when my grandfather, he ended up being 95 and passed away. Now it seems very common if people get into their 90s. It's going to be even more common eventually if people get into the hundreds. I'm certainly going to get there. That's my plan, And so, I know it says 80. Well, I'm going to go for whatever. Or 80, whatever it is, I'm going to 120 plus. I think Moses had it right. We'll get to, I want to go when my eyes have not dimmed and everything else is not a problem, all right? Okay? But be proud of this kid. He's showing you, he put in the work, picked something that was hard enough to do, did well at it, but it will pay enough. Okay, for all you young people, aim at something that eventually, even if it's stepping stones, will pay enough by the time you get to 40, 50. Because fixing it then will be really challenging. All right, now go to your Daniel and the lion's den.
Well, first, I definitely was thankful for your counseling while I was in college because I was on the path of being a librarian, and with all these different liberal arts degrees, international studies, German, art, history, with my trio, I was going to triple major, and that would get me nowhere probably.
Right.
But you just looked at me and like, what is that going to get you? So then I switched to computer science. But
I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot we had that conversation. That's even more accolades for you is that we had a conversation. He was already on this path. He was halfway through his college, and he said, what are you doing? Okay? This is all fun and entertaining, but it's not going to pay you anything. All right? And he made the switch, so good for him.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, so in Daniel, this is about when you've talked about wisdom before, when, let's say, the government is anti-Israel, let's say, and they look at you funny when you have seat, so you tuck them in. So in Daniel chapter 6, before he goes to the lion's den, they make a petition for a law where if it goes into effect, whoever petitions a god other than their god would be thrown in the den of lions. And so Daniel in verse 10 is like, and Daniel, when he knew that the writing was signed, he went home in his upper room with his windows open toward Jerusalem. He knelt down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his Elah as he had done before. So to me, I mean, you read this, and Daniel's a very notable guy, and he's very fearless of what they might do to him. But I also thought that might be kind of foolish, because if people are like they just have this thing signed, you don't need to put yourself into that situation if you don't have to. And he definitely doesn't seem to have to have his window open so that they can all see him. So would that be an example of him having less wisdom than maybe would be?
No, okay. So situations require us to always think about who's doing what they're doing and what is their role and where are they, right? Okay? So when I gave advice saying, look, if you are going to be going to a big city where there's some people that are not of sound mind, may just come and beat the whatever out of you because you're wearing seat, and wisdom may dictate not to entice crazy people to come and attack you, under those circumstances, okay? Now, I haven't been anywhere where I felt the need to tuck mine in, and I just haven't done that. Now, that's not the same thing as Daniel. Daniel is in authority, in a position of authority, so he has a role to stand up to that authority, okay? And so he's saying, it's just like if they made a rule that you had to work on Saturday, I would not work on Saturday, and they might throw me in jail or whatever. That's dealing with law and government as opposed to dealing with just crazy people. Okay? So wisdom dictates when you're dealing with crazy people, you want to use a little bit of wisdom instead of tempting crazy. And when we're talking about a law that would interfere with, because by the way, you didn't quote it right, they wanted him to pray to the king. Okay? It says anybody that petitions anybody other than the sovereign. Okay? Because this is all about the king, and he's saying to Darius, he said, well, look, anybody doesn't, pray to you. Okay? So you got to be, he says, all right. That's what the verse says with the decree, right? It says, make it that whoever petitions any Elah or man for 30 days except you, O sovereign, is thrown into the den of lions. Okay? So Daniel is not going to worship and honor a man. He's going to worship the Father, and he's saying, fine, I'm going to go and open my window, make sure everybody understands. I don't bow down to man. I'm going to do what needs to be done. That's different than saying, because remember, they're asking him to do something against his beliefs, as opposed to saying, let me just use wisdom and tuck my seat in so a crazy person doesn't come and beat me up. Because they were just attacking people when the whole Palestine-Israel thing started, just for being Jewish. It was happening on campuses, it was happening in different places. That's not the same thing as standing up against an edict that would require you to break. Okay? So I'm not saying don't wear your seat. That would be requiring you to break. I'm saying, but just if you're in the wrong crowd in the wrong place, you might not need to just put them out there as a welcome sign to get beat up. Okay,
that makes sense. I think because what he was doing wasn't technically breaking at that point, by praying with the windows open. That wasn't like something he had to do, like Torah-wise. But I can see what you're saying with he would actually have to start petitioning the king. So it would be, he knew that would require him to break.
Okay, but there's more happening here, okay? Listen what the verse says, though. He says that he knelt down on his knees. He went to the one and knelt down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks as he had done before. He knew the intrigues of the court. He knew that these guys were doing these things to get him particularly. And he said, fine. I've been doing this all this time. You all know I've been doing this. So it's not like you walk into New York City when the crazies are doing their thing and they don't know you, they don't know anything about you, and you show up and they randomly want to attack you. Daniel knew the game that was happening, and he wasn't going to play the game. He said, fine, you set this up to get me, here I am. You wanted me, now go ahead, come and get me. Okay? Because this had been something he knew they all knew he did. He was not hiding anything that they were not familiar with. Okay? And so this is the difference also. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. And I had one other quick question, if that's all right. Mm-hmm. So about buying and selling and not doing it on Shabbat, there's when you buy or sell something, you have the transaction, you give the money and then you get the whatever you're buying, let's say. Now, you're not going to be, of course, like exchanging money on Shabbat, but a lot of times, whether it be like the idea of like, okay, you already bought it, but now you're just giving it to the person later, and it happens to be Shabbat on that day, is that, to me, that seems like it's still part of the transaction, right? Because you're giving and then you're getting. You're giving the money, getting whatever it is. Are both of those pieces not allowed on Shabbat?
Okay, so let me kind of package it two ways, right? First way is you ordered something on Amazon on a Tuesday and it happens to show up on Saturday. That essentially is completing the transaction, but you had no control over that, okay? On the other hand, let's say I order something for you because I have access to it or something I've bought before and I said I'll pick one up for you and you pay me during the week. I will wait till after sundown to give it to you, all right? Because now that's something that I have control over and there's no reason to be doing anything business related until after Shabbat is over, okay? I still might give it to you when you're here because this may be the only time we really run into each other, okay? Or maybe we've agreed to this and you even haven't paid me yet and I'll tell you, look, here's my Cash App, you can do that, but don't do it till after Sabbath. All right, so everything's just got to be done after Sabbath. A little bit more challenging when Sabbath doesn't end till like 9 o'clock at night, but easier to do in the wintertime when it's earlier, so by the time services is over, it's pretty much sundown. Okay, but no. But some of the business you may do may not complete until Sabbath. As a matter of fact, you may get charged for something on a Saturday because you ordered it on Monday. They don't charge you till they ship it. It got shipped on Saturday. You still didn't receive it yet, but they'll hit your credit card the day when they ship it. Amazon will do that a lot. They will hit your credit card when they ship. Okay? So you might actually get a business transaction charge on a Saturday. You had no control over that. You literally were not doing anything on Saturday, but you had no control over when that was going to happen, okay? So we only have to worry about the things that we can control and have some authority over. So if I pick something up for you, okay, I'll try to get it to you, when it's not Shabbat, okay? I'll give you an example where there may be a gray line on that. I'm a distributor for doTERRA, right? The essential oils and whatever. They got these great lozenges. Mercy likes them to help her with her throat when she's singing. She asked me to get her some. I did. Then we got here on Shabbat. She needed one before she was singing. I gave her the ones that I got for her. Okay, she hadn't paid for them yet at that point, by the way. I was just giving them to her so she could have one to use because she needed it that day. And then she paid me after Shabbat, okay? So there are nuances that could make other sense when a person needs something and I got it for them so they need it functionally for Shabbat. She needed it on Shabbat, okay? Because it was soothing for her so she could sing and that kind of stuff. So you got to really make sure that if something needs to be given to someone because they need it that day for Shabbat, during Shabbat, and you happen to have it for them, that's not a problem, okay? But if it's something that they don't need during the service, they don't need while it's still Shabbat, then what would you be doing? I mean, there'd be almost no exceptions except like something like what I just said, okay? Because I know that I would give her some of mine and she said, hey, can I get some for herself? So I did. You understand what I'm saying? But you would literally need to use it during the service. And I wasn't going to see her until she got here. So I gave her them when she got here, okay? So you can see that makes sense, it's logical, it's not a business transaction. Besides which, she hadn't even paid for them anyway. I was giving them to her. So those are rare exceptions, but you understand what I'm saying? Okay, Tom.